Hi, Steve.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all.
Hi there.
Hello. I need to fix something so I can blur the background on my video. I'm using the Zoom web client and you're not able to blur through there, but I need to fix it somehow. Will disturb everyone. Okay, I guess we should wait maybe another minute. I see Derek is here. That's great. From Argo. Welcome.
Thank you.
In the meantime, please add yourselves to the participants list. If you don't have the link, I can provide it in the chat. Okay, so I guess we should not wait anymore. Yeah, so welcome here today. As I think you might have seen in the mail I sent out last week, today we are visited by Derek Wang from Argo Events actually, and he will present what Argo Events is to us, followed by maybe a short discussion on how we can continue our cooperation, and then we will continue on discussing on our the name of our new event protocol. See where we can get today. So are there any questions? Or maybe we should just look through action items from last week. I don't believe there are any action items, right?
No, not that I remember.
Yeah, the only one was that I should prepare for the name setting together with Andrea, and we've done some preparation there, so we'll come to it later on. Yeah. Anything from you, Andrea, or should we go ahead?
Nothing for me.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go on then. And Derek, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. All right. My name is Derek Wang. I'm from Argo community. I worked on Argo events and Argo workflows. I'm super happy to be invited here to give an introduction about Argo events. And I hope Argo events could be an extra option for CD community for events handling stuff. Before I start, I just want to give a brief introduction about the Argo family. We actually have 4 CNCF projects. There are actually 2 groups, CD and rollout. CD is a software used to do continuous deployment, and rollout is used to do like blue-green canary stuff. And we also have workflows, which are used for workflow majorly used by AI machine learning guys. It's very popular there. And we have events. Events are used to handle the events related stuff. Argo events. What is Argo events? Argo events is an event-driven workflow automation framework, and it's for Kubernetes. And you can use Argo events to trigger actions based on the events you receive, and you can do it by using Kubernetes as well. Right now, Argo events supports like 25 different types of events, which includes those queue-based or PubSub-based event sources like AWS SQS, Kafka, NAS, or RabbitMQ, those kind of stuff. And also includes like those webhook-based event sources like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, or just a regular webhook event source. It also can support like those file-based event sources like S3 bucket, which is menu here, and also like HDFS or just local file-based events. And Argo also can do like watch the events from Kubernetes itself, not only the Kubernetes Kubernetes events, but any Kubernetes object changes. You can use Argo events to watch.
So Derek, are these incoming events that Argo is listening for, or are these outgoing events that Argo is publishing?
It's incoming message.
Okay.
And based on the events you received, you actually do like 11 different kinds of actions. It has a Lambda or like OpenWhisk, which is a function-based action you can take. And of course, we support Argo workload because same family, so it's first-class citizen. And you also can do like send a message to like queue-based or PubSub-based service like Kafka, NAS. Or you can just make any kind of HTTP request, which enables to do any action to trigger a service workload. And you also can use it to create any kind of Kubernetes resource, no matter it's the deployment, the configuration, or any kind of CRD object. If you could not find any event source or actions supporting Argo events, we actually provide a interface for you to implement your own event source or sensor or action you want to take. As we name them as generic event source or generic trigger kind of stuff. We provide a gRPC interface. You only need to implement the gRPC. You need to write your own code to implement a gRPC interface, so you can get hooked to Argo event system. Then let's look at some of the key concepts in Argo events world. The first CRD object I'm going to introduce is event source. Event source is used to define something you're interested in. Typically, it's events from either outside of the cluster or inside of the cluster. And the event source job is to watch those events and then send those events to an internal event bus. Let's look at some examples about event source to see how the CRD objects look like. So on the left side is a event source object named a webhook. It configures events named example here. I'm going to explain later. And this event source, this event listens to port 12,000. It has endpoint example and accepts a message like post. So this example, the example on the left is a single event configured in one event source. The actual event source supports to configure multiple events in one event source object. That's why we have an event source name, and also we need to give a events. We name it as event name here, like this. So on the right is a example, a mixed type of event source. So this event source has 3 events configured. 2 of them are named example 1 and example 2. They're calendar type event source. And the third one is a menu type, which can be used for like 3 events. We named it example 3. I didn't give the detailed configuration here. Just give you some concept about how Argo event source look like. And then we look into the second most important concept in Argo events world. We name it as sensor. A sensor is used to listen to an event bus for certain type of events, and then you trigger your actions conditionally based on your configuration. A sensor typically contains two parts. The first part is declares what kind of event source you're interested in. We name it as dependency. And the second part defines what kind of action you want to take, and we name it as like trigger. So trigger is an action you want to take. As the sensor example. So in sensor, first part, I have a dependencies. You give an event source name and an event name, and give a dependency name. And the triggers part, this trigger is like a simple HTTP trigger. When I see an event from the SQS, I want to make an HTTP request, get the request to medium.com. It's a simple example of sensor. This is an architecture diagram of Argo events. So when you use Argo events, typically there are two kinds of namespace are involved. The first is system namespace, which is to install those controllers. So we have event source controller, sensor controller, and an event bus controller installed Argo events namespace. The other kind of events namespace is a user namespace. That's the namespace that an event source object or sensor object is created in. So as a user, you only need to create you just create your event source object and sensor in your own namespace. So when an event source object or sensor object is created, the event source controller and sensor controller will create corresponding paths to, for event source, it creates path to watch the events. For example, you have SQS, there will be an event source path to watch SQS event. And also the sensor object will have a sensor path, which is there to be ready to like trigger actions. But the event source, when the event source pod see there's an event coming, it does not send the event directly to the sensor. Instead, it sends to object named event bus. So here we have an event bus, the third CRD object named event bus here in the system. This event bus represents a pops-up service used by the internal system. So the event source pod sends the message to the event bus, and the sensor watches the event bus. So this way they make the event source and sensor decouple. So this event bus brings two benefits. One of them is like, so first of all, it's a pops-up system. So it naturally provides a pops-up feature. So events can be used by multiple actions. The second benefit is it provides a kind of persistent for the message used by, or the events used by the system. So if you have a, for example, SQS type event source, it's a queue, it's not a pops up basically. So when you consume the message from SQS queue, you have to, normally you have to read it and then delete the message from the queue. And this way you cannot be reused by any other kind of consumers. But by using Argo events, when the SQS event source read the message from SQS queue, it actually sent to an internal pops-up system. And then it could be reused by any kinds of consumers defining the sensor, which is the actions. Right now, the events, if you create a event bus object, we provide default support for the event bus, which is like you can define a NAS native type event bus, and then we will create this event bus control will create a NAS streaming step or set for you in your namespace. Or you can use existing event bus NAS streaming and then create an event bus object pointing to the existing NAS streaming service. And we are open to implement other kind of event bus like Kafka or any kind of pops up you're interested in. So this is our architecture. Some of the interesting features provided by Argo event. So first one is you can use parameters. So So when you receive an event and you trigger action, you actually want to you sometimes want to customize your action based on the data in the event's content. We call this feature as parameters. So you can customize this by watch the event's content, and the event data structure within the system, whatever is a no matter it's a SQS or webhook or any kinds of events, you'll be wrapped as a data structure like this. You'll see it's like a cloud events type format, and the parameter will you can read the event context. You can get this kind of property in your action or any kind of data from your original events content to the action. You can set the default value for the parameter. You can also use like tools like Sprig template to make some conversion for your data before trigger the action. And operations like you can so for example, you have data from subject, okay, and then you want to add this subject to the existing value, or just replace it, replace the existing value. So that's the operation you can define as a user. This parameter. Filters. Filter is like when you define the events dependency. So for example, there are many teams are using the same topic or SQS message or SQS queue, but you're only interested in some of the message or from the Kafka or from the SQS queue, then you can define a filter in your dependency. You can filter by string number or even by time. Say I'm only interested in the events happens from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. You can do it. Or you can simply use the expression like based on data, like A.B equals G or C equals 10, this kind of expression to do the filter. Trigger conditions. So for Argo events in the sensor, you can define multiple dependencies, and you also can define multiple triggers, multiple actions you want to take. But sometimes you want to say, hey, action one, I only want action one to be triggered when kind of dependency or kind of condition happens. Or for the other triggers, I want to use a different condition, so like this. So for example, this guy, I wanted this trigger one happens only when the dependency 0.2 happen. And for this guy, I want the trigger 3 happens when this condition is resolved to true. So that's the trigger condition stuff. You can flexibly define your triggers and dependency in one sensor object. Next, trigger source. So Argo events can be used to trigger any kinds of Kubernetes resource, which is any kind of Kubernetes object. You can put it in inside the sensor object, the raw spec in the sensor object. So we name it as an inline, or you can put the spec in a config map or GitHub or a simple URL or file or 3 bucket. So it's kind of flexible for you to define your action. And now I'm going to give some demo here. I know some of you are from Tecton community, so I want to demo Argo events features by using Tecton. So I have a cluster. It's a K3 cluster on my local, and I'm gonna demo like 3 or 4 very quick ones. Okay. So first, I'm gonna give a hello world. Everything starts from hello world. So this hello world, I have an event source. I use a calendar for a demo. But think about it, because it's a K3 cluster, I cannot do those complex external dependency like SQS stuff. So I'm going to use calendar or webhook for my demos. But you actually can change any of change this kind of event source to any kind of event source I mentioned in those 25, and then the result is the same. So I have a calendar type event source declared here. It will generate events every 30 seconds. In the sensor, I have a dependency on this event source, and I have two actions here. First one is a log trigger, which is simple for debugging. Second one is a Tecton task run. So when there's an event happens, I want to trigger, I want to create Tecton task run, which print out the hello world, right? So I'm gonna apply this spec. We actually have a UI for it. I'm gonna use a terminal. Oh, I forgot something. So we have an event bus object. So we need to create an event bus object direct before everything happens. Test event bus, okay. And then after I create an event bus object, which will create right now I'm using native type of NAS, and this CRD object they will create a NAS streaming service as a stable set in my namespace. So I have it there, and then I have this. Let me request those guys. I have a hello world, and it is there, and you can see this calendar. You can check the spec here, or check the logs and the event source path. And also you can check the log or spec of the sensor here. And now, because it generates events every 30 seconds. So let's see, 27. All right, we can see the first task run is here. Echo hello world. It says hello world. First simple hello world demo. Delete it. Delete it. Task run. My second demo will be using parameters. So I'm going to still use the task run there. It's still same task run, but in echo the hello world, I changed the echo hello parased message. This is a pure Tecton spec. So here in arguments, I define a parameter here. I want to use a body.message from dependency 1, which is a webhook example here, which I define to replace spec parameter. The first item replace the value, which is the word. Okay. So I'm gonna apply this.
And Derek, this is reusing the existing event bus, right? You don't have to create an event
yeah,
bus.
so we're using existing event bus. For
Okay.
event bus, you only need to create one object for one namespace.
Okay.
Yeah. And because I'm using the second demo, I'm using a webhook, so I need to do a port forward. I'm gonna generate message by curl to the event source object. Specify 8080, right? Okay. And I'm using another window to send the HTTP request. I already have it there. Okay. So make it quick. So I send a post request to 8080 with a message demo. So the task run should print out a message like a hello demo instead of hello world. Let's see. Okay. All right, so new task run here, there. Hello demo. So that's second one, parameters. The third one is still, it's similar to the second one, but I'm adding something to the sensor config here. So task run is still the same by using the parameter stuff. I just added a filter to the dependency. Here, I'm only interested in the source message, which has a body dot value greater than 50. All the rest are same with the second one. Okay. So, because I recorded the event source, I need to get the pod name again. Right now, we don't. I'm demoing these features in Argo events namespace. Typically, user use it in their own namespace. So you can see there are so many pods here. So right now there's no task run we can see in the namespace. And if I make a HTTP request to the endpoint, I already have it here. So first message I want to send is like body.message, just 30. So you should not trigger any action in the sensor. So here, we don't see any new task run there. But if I change it to like 60, all right. All right, there's a new task run. It should still be a demo. So that's filter plus parameter. And then I'm gonna do my last demo first. My last demo will be a trigger condition. So for this demo, I'm going to create a webhook event source. It has two webhook events defined there. First one named full. It listens pod 8080 and then endpoint full and post. Second one named bar, 8081 bar slash bar. That's the event source part. And for sensor, I defined two dependencies there, webhook full and webhook bar. So for sensor, you actually define the dependency from different event source. It doesn't have to be from the same event source. And then I have two triggers here, two task runs. First task run, it has a condition say, hey, either full or bar. When I see a message from either full or bar, I'm going to create a task run and generate name with a generate name full or bar, and also echo full or bar. The second trigger is a full and bar. So that's a condition. And then I will create a task run named full and bar with the name. And also it echoes like full and bar. So that's a multiple condition example. And I'm going to create it. Event source sensor pod, event source pod is there. Okay. So we also can see those. The event source has a full events, bar events, it has a condition full or bar and full and bar, and that's the trigger. This UI used to, this line used to blink when there's an event coming, but I don't know, is there something wrong with it to fix? So this line is not blinking, it's just always grayed out. But anyway, so now I'm gonna, so because I'm exposing 8080 and 81, so I need to do two port forward 8080. Okay. I have another 8080 started there, so forgot to kill it. Okay. And 8081. Forward. Okay, and then I'm gonna send messages to those two endpoints. So before that, I'm checking if there are any tasks on there. No. And I'm gonna send a first message to full because I didn't use any parameter from the source. I just sent an empty JSON string to the endpoint. So I send it to full, and then let's see, full or bar. So that's the first action. Right, I can see there's a task run there. If I send it again, so I send a second message still to full, and check the task run, the second task run, still full in bar. And now if I send it to bar, let's see. And then you can see there are two task runs are created. First one is full or bar, second one is full and bar. Does it explain the conditions? I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
On the and condition, how long does it wait for the and condition to become true? So in other words, how long is the event on the event bus?
Yeah. There for the event bus, it has a message timeout settings. By default is like 72 hours. Okay. Until it's, yeah, but you can customize until the message is still valid in the event bus. You will wait.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that ends all my demos. And back to, actually, I don't have anything more question. Oh, actually, so for Argo events, all this event source and sensor pod, there you can do HA for them. I was going to specify replica for the event source or the sensor CRD object, and they will do active or active passive HA for based on different kind of event source and sensor. For sensor, it's always active passive. For event source, it depends. If it's GitLab, or those kind of webhook based, you could do active. For like calendar, it cannot run two calendars at the same time, otherwise you'll get duplicate message. So we run active and passive. Yeah, that's HA. Yeah, any other questions for I don't think I have anything else to share today, but free to answer question.
One question on the last thing we looked at, the triggering on events of different types. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, is there a way to say, I want to trigger when there's an event of type A and an event of type B, but that share some property? Like, for instance, I want to trigger when service X has been deployed in both environment Z and mm-hmm. environment Y. So you like declare that I don't know what this shared key will be, but they will have the same value of some sort. I'm thinking about a fan-in scenario where some part of a pipeline starts two parallel tasks, and those two mm-hmm. parallel tasks share mm-hmm. like the instance ID or run ID or something. And then when you want to fan in, you need them to have the same run ID to trigger the next job. I'm not sure if the question makes sense, but that is a scenario that I've seen before, at least.
I'm kind of thinking of your request. Even you use them different kind of condition to trigger the action, you still can use the parameters stuff. You still can use the data. The parameter from the event content to trigger the actions. Basically, you can like instant ID. But actually, I'm thinking one task you have two one pipeline have 2 attacks run, but that you can define 2 event source for them.
Yeah, I guess a similar thing would be, for instance, in Captain, there's something called a context. So whenever Captain runs, it shares the same context key across everything that it runs that belongs to the same run, so to say. So I might want to use Argo events to say that when these 2 messages come, or these 2 events come, and they belong to the same run, so to say, then I want to trigger. Because otherwise it might trigger that 2 messages that have nothing to do with each other but happens to be of the same type, or sorry, of the correct types would trigger something. But I
okay, so you're saying
the same
your event source actually has some extra conditions. I mean, it's not pure A and B, but it's like something, some condition of A happens, and some condition of B happens. You trigger action. It's like that, I guess. I'm not sure if I understand correctly, but
no, I have a feeling I'm digging into too much details. I will look into this on my own. But the really nice demo. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for you being here, Derek, and that it's been very interesting to listen to. And I actually thought if we should interrupt you earlier, but because we have more things to discuss. But I think it was so interesting, so I wanted you to finish the demo and everything, and it's great.
Yeah, I'm happy to do any kind of discussion offline to to see if there anything arguments can help.
Sure, and you're of course welcome to join us online as well.
Yeah.
When discussing similar use cases. And I think the use case that Eric just mentioned is something that we might come back to in a detailed discussion on the vocabulary and how to set up this system. I guess maybe our POC, the new version of the POC could maybe involve Argo events. We'll see about that. That could be interesting, actually.
Yeah, I'm sorry to take too much time.
It's fine, I guess. So any more questions from anyone to Derek, as he might not be here next time? We can go to, I guess, offline later on. Andrea?
Yes, so thanks again for the presentation as well. I think it was very interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, the only thing that we probably would need to dive into is since we're talking about the format of events, how to structure them kind of on the vocabulary lines, that would come into play down the road. So I think we may try to bring you back when we get deeper into the weeds on our event structures.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm happy
exactly.
to do that.
Yeah. Great. So thanks again. Then moving on then to our next topic in the agenda. That's about the protocol naming. Andrea, would you like to take over?
Yes, thanks, Emil. So we're trying to kind of make some progress in the protocol naming topic, and we thought with Emil, the first thing we should try to agree on is what are the requirements for a good name. And we discussed this before. We have a GitHub discussion as well, so we try to bring in here in the agenda everything that we mentioned so far. So I'm just going to read through this, and if folks have things that are clearly missing or incorrect, we can discuss it now. So the first requirement for the good name should be related to a topic. So continuous delivery, software supply chain, messages, events, so it should be related in some way. Requirement also we had, it should be pronounceable. I think it makes sense to have a name that is in some way pronounceable. And also one requirement that is kind of hard to check online now, but we can look into it, is that the name is available, meaning there are no obvious overlaps in terms of domain being used already, or so we can check a number of availability in terms of DNS domain, for instance, also things like GitHub organization, Twitter account, and so forth. Other requirements or negative requirements, if you will, we don't want the name to bind to any organization or group, and we don't want the name to bind us to any underlying transport or protocol, because these are things that might change. So the protocol that we are defining now is created now as part of the event SIG, but we hope it to become like a project on its own, probably hosted by the CDF. So we shouldn't have binding in the name be related to the event SIG specifically, or not even to the CDF probably. And also cloud events is the binding we selected now, at least for a starting point, but we might have other bindings later on. So we don't want to be specific to that. Other things that were mentioned, it would be nice for the name to provide a nice brand name. So something that maybe is nice as a brand. It should represent the disruption that we want to bring. I think this is something you mentioned, Tracy. Maybe you want to expand on that further if you want. Another comment was it is spelled as it sounds. Maybe nice to have, but it's easy to spell it. And something else we mentioned is we might want to align into something that people already knows. So use some name that is, yeah, I guess so people can associate to things that are already familiar with. Yeah, the last four, but we didn't consider them as a requirement, more like comments or nice things to add to be associated with the name. So we want to ask if there is any comment on these, if this makes sense. We can use this as a framework of reference for choosing the name, or is anything else people would like to bring up, or any comment they would like to make on this?
Sounds good to me.
Question. It says that the name should be related to our topic. Does that mean that we should not discourage like names that does not have anything with the thing to do, like Simio or I don't know, maybe Eve was one other name? Or did I misunderstand there?
I think Tracy had a comment that we could use two different names. One for the more like, I'm not going to say boring parts, but the more like strict standard stuff parts, and another for like projects, where the projects like the pockets and stuff like that could use more fancy names, but the more boring event standard stuff would be more related to the topics. I think that's was what Tracy brought up.
I've worked on this for a while. I thought about it and wrote down a lot of different names and thought about it. I looked at other kind of projects. I tried to understand, at the best I could what we were trying to accomplish. And I felt like the boring part, the best name is CD Events. I know it assigns us to that part of it, assigns us to the continuous delivery foundation. It gives us the continuous delivery, the CD part. I just don't know how quickly CD is going to go away, and it matches more like with cloud events. And I think people would get what we were doing if we just keep calling that kind of that standard, the CD events. But if we have a project, if we have a product that we're going to be like a listener, I felt it should have a different kind of a name, and one that's more relatable. So I played with that quite a bit too. I try to create an acronym, and then I wrote down EV for events. And I was like, oh, we could just call it EV. And then I was like, no, we could just give it a name. We'll just call our listener like a robot. We'll call her Evie. So Evie's our listener. So that's how I kind of came to those names. I'm certainly not attached, but that was my contribution. It's not an easy thing to name something. It really is. It can be quite challenging. But I feel like getting to the core of what we do. I created an image of a girl wearing some headphones because she's the listener. And I felt like that was the cleanest, most direct message that we could come up with. Simple, you know, keeping the protocol more technical, like CD events. But if we have a project, I would go with a name that's relatable, an image that's easy to understand. And I started with the letters E and V, and I ended up with the name Evie.
Yeah, and maybe Matthias, to comment on your question also there about related to the topic, and you mentioned Semio. That was one of my suggestions earlier. We will discuss later on if the current suggestions that we have, if they do align to these requirements or not. Maybe you could argue that Semio is still something, it is not naturally aligned to the first requirement there, but if you would know Greek, it's kind of related, but we can come to that.
And then I did do some searching on Evie as a name for software, and it's not out there.
Great.
And I think based on what we just saw from Derek on the Argo side, you know, Argo ended up being split into 4 separate pieces. You know, they had the workflow. You know, so I think the high level of just doing the CD events is a good bucket to hold the other pieces that will come out of that in place. So I can see the multiple names working well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just let me add to the. Yeah. So regarding the first requirement, I agree with what has been said so far. I think the fact that it should be related to a topic, it doesn't mean. I think like names like Semios or EV or other names that are related because they are inspired by events and messages and so forth. So it wasn't meant to be saying it should be a boring name. It was meant to say they should be related somehow. That was my interpretation for the first requirement. So it shouldn't be something that is totally unrelated. I don't know, name about food or something that is not related at all with messages. Thanks Tracy and Steve and everyone for the comments on these. I mean, we had a set of proposed names until now, and I think focusing first on, let's say, the boring name, or at least the name for what I would call the name for the specification of the protocol. We can review the existing list. Just wanted to show it briefly here. So I'll copy it in the. Oops. If Zoom allows me to. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going into uncharted territory there.
Yeah, so this is the kind of names that were proposed until now. And many of them are indeed somehow related to other CD events or CDE or variations of it. The only exceptions being, I guess, Semios, CSE, CDFE, and Open Lifecycle Illustration, Leap, and Spell. So in terms of matching with the requirements, we are running a bit short in time. So I think some of them, like CDFE, are specific to the Continuous Delivery Foundation, so they would not meet the requirements.
Just do a strike through on that. So on the ones that we think we should just eliminate immediately.
Right.
I did like open life cycle orchestration, but I think I would have, I played with open life cycle events, which is like Ole. Because I think that the orchestration on that open life cycle orchestration, what I got hooked up on was orchestration, because it feels more like Jenkins or a Circle CI or something that's doing more of an orchestration. So I kind of liked open lifecycle events, but I just kept going back to CD events made more sense.
Okay.
Even
And a
though I like
quick-
the term lifecycle, I just don't know. I don't know how many people understand that continuous delivery is a life cycle. I know that sounds crazy, but I talk to a lot of people and you'd be surprised.
Just a quick question to any native English speakers here. CD events, is there any chance that a malicious actor would conflate this with CD, like the CD character or CD bar or something like that, and use that against us? I guess it's not going to happen, but I see that risk.
I didn't
somehow.
even think about it, but it's probably because my brain's so into thinking about continuous delivery.
So I think CD means like in disrepair or a bit sketchy or a bit
Yes, you go to a
suspicious.
CD, yes. But no, I didn't think about it at all when I was from a English. No.
Then we should be safe. Good.
Okay. So we don't have much time.
There's nothing wrong with just calling it life cycle events either. If we want to drop CD in case CD becomes unpopular in the future for some reason or something replaces it, like progressive delivery, life cycle events is, we have it in here as LEAP, but why don't we just call it life cycle events?
Okay. Life cycle events.
So I would say if we just kind of weed out the ones that, for me, like would it be the fourth one down, the CD cloud events? I think we
Yes.
should take that one out because we don't want to be tied to cloud events, even though that may be the protocol for now, but down the road. Yeah, I take out the SIG events.
And ECD is not a bad one either, events for continuous delivery, but then we get back to having a CD in there. I definitely wouldn't have CI CD in there because I don't think, I think continuous integration is really related more to like a Jenkins triggering builds. And so I think CI is that term's gonna go away sooner than CD.
Yeah, I do agree on that. I would tend to take the CI one out, unless anyone. Okay. I do like the idea of going into lifecycle software lifecycle area. I just my only concern with that is that it's not one of the requirements, but it might align less to things that people expect in terms of CD. But I don't know, the software supply chain is a term that is, I guess, is becoming more popular. So that might be also an option, but what
so
I'm
that's
trying to
maybe
say.
against
Yeah.
using something that is currently the best practice. So, I mean, CD is what we talk about today, but we might talk about life cycle tomorrow, and then we might talk about software supply chain even after tomorrow. So that's maybe one argument for not having any of those, so to say, direct related words, let's say.
But I would on that, I would argue that life cycle is not is more of a, how can I phrase it? It's more of a concrete word. You know, it's I don't think, even though life cycle, we used to call it application lifecycle management, right? ALM, before we started calling it continuous delivery. But life cycle really does describe what the events are for, as opposed to a trend. Like continuous delivery to me is more of a trend kind of a name. So I guess my point is, I don't really think that using the term life cycle is breaking that one rule that says we shouldn't be, you know, aligned with a particular news of the day. I think life cycles are pretty, you know, solid description of what it's doing.
I'd agree. Yeah.
I also think that lifecycle will probably hang in there much longer than CD will. So lifecycle seems more stable for me also.
And just looking back at the list, I think we should take out open lifecycle orchestration, just because I don't think we want to be in the orchestration world.
Unless we change the word orchestration to events, and then we have OLE.
Olay. Yeah.
I know.
Well, OLE used to be a database driver for
I know.
OS2.
That's why I was like, I tried to change it to OLE instead of OLE.
Okay. Right. So I think stronger leave, stronger candidates. I don't think we have an obvious winner, and we only have 3 minutes left. But I think we are like some strong candidates like CD events or something related to life cycle events. And I think names like Simio or Simios are still an option. So
Exactly. Go on.
yeah, so our plan was, okay, if we had like an obvious winner, to send an email with saying, okay, we propose this name, and if anyone is against it, please let us know until a certain until a certain point of time. But since we have a couple more names, what I can do, I can build a new poll with the names that were suggested today. So we just do 3 options out of these, and maybe one open-ended option if people wants to add. And we can see if there is a strong winner, and hopefully we can close this and pick a name in the next couple of weeks. Does this make sense as a plan?
Sounds good.
Yep.
Sounds good to me as well.
I do want to say that I liked Simio. But I looked that up, and there's some startups that have already started using that. Believe it or not.
Too bad.
Yeah.
I think also before we settle on a name, we should look it up if it's already used somewhere, and if the domains and such are available before we at least set on an abbreviation of it, whatever we should use. So that leave that I wrote there might be something that we could abbreviate life cycle events to, if that's not occupied. So maybe the abbreviation we might not need to decide on exactly now or to the poll, but at least if it's okay to use life cycle or not in the name, that's something we should try to distinguish.
So I'm just looking now. There are some references that people are using the term life cycle events, but I don't see anything that is called it. you do a search on lifecycle events, there's some stuff out there.
but not like a domain.
No.
Right. Okay, yeah, I think we're at time, but I'll make this poll, and what I can do is also reach out to the CDF and see if there is any service they can maybe provide us in terms of like branding check and make sure there's no like trademark infringements or anything like that when we pick a name. And yeah, I'll send out the poll as soon as possible then.
Sounds good.
Great. Thanks all for the discussions. And great, Andrea.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
See you next time. Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.